Yo, it's your boy J Bess, and welcome to part three of my eight-part series called Divisional DNA with J Bess. Today I'll be covering the NFC North. This division has the Detroit Lions, Minnesota Vikings, Green Bay Packers, and Chicago Bears. I'll be recapping their seasons and previewing their upcoming offseason. Before I get into any of that, as always, I want to thank God for waking me up this morning, allowing me to talk about sports, which is something that I love to do. Without him, I would not be here right now. So let's go ahead and get this thing started with the worst team in the division this year, the Detroit Lions. Guys, Detroit Lions came into this year with Super Bowl aspirations, right? This is a team that 2 years prior was in the NFC Championship and choked away a big lead to the 49ers and ended up not making the Super Bowl. Sorry. The very next year, they lost as the number one seed in the second round to the Washington Commanders, who were the seventh seed. And then this year, you're thinking, okay, third time's a charm, right? But they fell short and they didn't even make the playoffs, guys. This is a team that started 5-2. So early on, we're like, okay, this is the Lions team we expected. And then they went 4-6 during their last 10 games, losing three of the last four games, right? So they had they fell apart mid to late in the season. This is the team that lost Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn going into this season, right? That was their offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator the year prior. Ben Johnson, of course, went to the Chicago Bears, and Aaron Glenn went to the New York Jets. So with those two coaching departures, I had second thoughts. Right, I was a little nervous about this Detroit Lions team. Now, I wasn't 10 toes down, and I didn't say, okay, they're going to miss the playoffs. I figured they have enough talent to still make the playoffs, but I figured that Super Bowl was out the window for this team because they lost two big pieces of their team, which was their offensive and defensive coordinator, especially with Ben Johnson, because I feel like Jared Goff is a guy that needs a really good offensive minded coach. He's had that for the entirety of his career, and I feel like that has overcompensated, and that's kind of, hid the fact that Jared Goff is not that talented. Like, he doesn't have his ceiling is not like others. Right, especially when it comes to just his physical traits and his talent. Right now, he has had good seasons because he's had really good teams. That Rams team with Sean McVay, he had Todd Gurley at one point, Robert Woods in that offense, Jared Cook, I believe. Their offense was really good. Then he comes to Detroit and he has Jameer Gibbs. He has David Montgomery. He has Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, at one point TJ Hawkinson, now Sam Laporta. Like, he had good teams his whole entire career, good offenses at least for the entirety of his career. But the common denominator has been his coaches. Sean McVay was his play caller in LA, and then Ben Johnson was a play caller here for majority of his stint in Detroit. All right, so I kind of expected them to dip a little bit, but they did well early and they kind of fell apart down the stretch. One problem they had this year was their defense, and I think a big part of it was injuries in that secondary, which was their weakest link. Brian Branch, who's an all-pro caliber safety, tore his Achilles in week 14. Kirby Joseph only played 6 games this year. He was an all-pro safety the year prior, only played 6 games this year. DJ Reed, who they acquired from the New York Jets, only played 11 games this year. And then Terrion Arnold, their other corner, only played 8 games this year. So I just named their starting safeties and their starting corners, who all at some point this year was hurt. And at some point, you can't, as a coach, Kelvin Shepard, their new defensive coordinator who replaced Aaron Glenn, you can't cover up injuries forever. At some point that the top gonna fall off. At some point you can't. At some point you got to have the manpower, and they didn't have that this year. The Lions was bottom four in explosive plays allowed, and this is a defense that runs a lot of man coverage. So you're telling me your best players was hurt, so you had backups coming in running man coverage. You're gonna get torched, and that's why they was bottom four in explosive plays allowed this year. So to me, that was the problem. Their defense gave up 21 points. Well, it was 21st, sorry, in points allowed per game. That's bottom 10, bottom 11, right? Which is not that great. And then they was also bottom 13 in passing yards allowed, but there was 14th in rushing yards allowed. So the run defense wasn't terrible. But during that losing streak at the end of the season, that losing stretch, they were allowing a lot of rushing yards. Once again, a lot of injuries kind of beat this team up defensively. So I'm not going to say that it was coaching or nothing like that. I think injuries really hurt this team this year. They've already made a move already this offseason by trading away David Montgomery to the Houston Texans. In return, they're getting Juice Shrugs, a 2026 fourth round pick, and a 2027 seventh round pick. This move to me was great for the Lions. And I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why it was good, and I'm gonna tell you why somebody could make an argument that it wasn't good. This was good because to me, running backs are replaceable. I just believe that. At one point, we was having arguments about RB's value and why running backs not getting paid a lot. It's because running backs can be replaced. I've seen a lot of backup running backs come in and give you at least somewhat 85% of what the starting running back can give you. As long as I have a good line and a good offensive coordinator that can draw up schemes for running the ball, I'll be just fine, right? I don't necessarily need Saquon. I don't need Derrick Henry. I don't need Christian McCaffrey. I don't need Jameer Gibbs, Bijan Robinson. Look at the Super Bowl winners over the past couple of years. Of course, Saquon is the outlier, right? But with the Chiefs, when they're winning Super Bowls, they don't have no elite running back, right? This year, Kenneth Walker, cool. He's a good running back, but he's not elite, I don't believe. So majority of Super Bowl winners that we've seen don't have these crazy talented elite top five running backs. So I think you can replace that. And on top of that, you're about to get the best offensive year from a running back in history, I believe. I think Jameer Gibbs, as the number one with no number two, is to me about to take over the league and be the best runner next year. I've come out plenty of times and I've said David Montgomery is holding Jameer Gibbs back. Right. I think that if David Montgomery doesn't take away these goal line touches that Jameer Gibbs could have, he doesn't take away these touchdowns that Jameer Gibbs could have, his numbers could be just as good or even better. Right. Even David Montgomery takes away touches like midfield. Right. So Jameer Gibbs doesn't get the amount of touches that he possibly could. The potential touches he could get is so high. But because you had David Montgomery, and this is where the opposing side of this argument can get me because you want to have a 1-2 punch. That to me reduces injuries for Jameer Gibbs, right? Jameer Gibbs is a very fast, quick, elusive running back, just like Devon Achane. What does Devon Achane have a history of? Lower body injuries. That could very well be Jameer Gibbs when he takes over as the workhorse in this offense. That very well could be. I'm looking at a running back that this past year, showed us what he can do in the pass game, and we all know what he can do in the run game, right? He is a guy that can hit his head on the goalpost any given play. And you're telling me you're about to up his snap count? You're telling me he's about to get more touches and more scoring opportunities? Oh, yeah, sign me up for it. For all you fantasy players out there, please go get Jameer Gibbs next year because I really think he could be the greatest fantasy player of all time, honestly, in this offense next year without David Montgomery, right? Sonic and Knuckles, look, it was cute, right? It was cute, but Knuckles is gone. It's Sonic's time to shine, right? And I really like what Jameer Gibbs can do this upcoming year. So that's why I'm excited about it. But once again, people can come in and say, you really want that 1-2 punch to reduce injuries? I get it, but I can't wait to see Jameer Gibbs in a backfield by himself. This is a team that is bottom 8 in cap space, so don't expect no crazy moves this upcoming offseason. It really don't got to make no crazy moves this offseason. Just get healthy and be healthy next year. And I think this team will be, of course, respectable, but this team could be a playoff team next year if they get healthy. They have pick number 17, and I think they can go anywhere with that pick. There's not really a weakness on this team. Like I said, their weakness was the secondary, and the secondary was banged up. The secondary was hurt. It's that simple, right? So I think that this Lions team can very well be back in the mix next year. I'm not gonna pick them to go to the Super Bowl. I don't think they're one of the best 4 teams in the conference, to be honest with you. But they are definitely a team that you cannot just completely sleep on because of all the firepower and all the talent that they have on this team. One thing that I do want to point out though before I move on is Dan Campbell. I don't like him as a head coach. Period. I think he gives this team a ceiling because of his aggressive play calling, his aggressive mindset, right? This is a guy that single-handedly lost them the NFC Championship against the 49ers because he refused to punt the ball. He refused to kick field goals. He just wanted to keep going for it on fourth down. There's been a couple of occasions this year where they lost games because of decisions that he made when it came to going for it on fourth down, right? So I think he is a guy that you don't want that as a head coach. I'm sorry, you just don't. And the other thing that I don't like about this team is Jared Goff. To be quite honest with you, Jared Goff is not a guy that I trust in big moments. Period. Last year we saw him melt down in the second round of playoffs against the Commanders. He clearly had a meltdown. So the two things that I don't like about this team are to me two of the most important pieces of any team: the head coach and the quarterback. Right, the two past playoff bursts they had. One was lost by the head coach. One was lost by the quarterback. So I don't see this team winning a Super Bowl with Jared Goff and Dan Campbell, right? One of them got to go. Whoever you wanted to be, one of them has got to go. But until that happens, this team will be respectable. I will give this team a playoff ceiling. But when it comes to the Super Bowl, don't count me in for the Detroit Lions getting that far because I don't trust the head coach or the quarterback. Next up, we have the Minnesota Vikings, who finished third place in the NFC North. They was also 9-8, like the Detroit Lions, but they had the head-to-head record over the Detroit Lions. This Vikings team is in the news right now because there are rumors that Kyler Murray is likely to go to the Vikings. For those of y'all that don't know, Kyler Murray did get he's scheduled to be released. The team said that he's going to be released when the new year starts, the new NFL season starts, whatever. But he's clearly getting released. So basically, the Vikings have been in conversations to acquire Kyler Murray. And I'm here to say, don't do it. This Vikings team is one of my dark horse teams next year. I've already claimed the Giants to be a dark horse team. This Vikings team is my other dark horse team. This is a team that the question mark is at QB. And I'm here to tell you that it shouldn't be a question mark. This is just a waiting game. And the waiting game to me is going to end this upcoming year because I think JJ McCarthy is going to show us that he is capable of being a franchise QB. Now we have to look at it like this. And Emmanuel Acho, for those of y'all that know him, he was on FS1. Now he has his own podcast. And one thing that he said, I heard him say about JJ McCarthy is the offense didn't even go through him in college. So why would y'all trust him to be a good quarterback in the NFL? Well, I'm here to defend that and to absolutely shatter that argument because JJ McCarthy played for Jim Harbaugh. We all know who Jim Harbaugh is when it comes to playing style. He wants to run the football, pro style offense, smash mouth football. That's what Jim Harbaugh is. And I have a prime example of what Jim Harbaugh does to QB production. Okay. After Jim left Michigan and came to the Chargers, Justin Herbert's numbers took a hit. Period. All right. So I took Justin Herbert's last full season without Jim Harbaugh because the year before Jim got there, Justin got hurt. So I'm looking at the year before that. So 2 years before Jim Harbaugh came on the scene, this was Justin Herbert's numbers. Okay. 700 passing attempts, 4,700 passing yards. All right. The first season with Jim Harbaugh, he had 500 attempts. That's 200 less attempts. And he had 3,900 passing yards, almost 1,000 less passing yards. That's what Jim Harbaugh's mindset, philosophy, and scheme can do to a quarterback. And this is a quarterback that we all know, if we're talking just talent, he's almost basically a top 5 quarterback in the league. So if he can do that to him, imagine what he was doing JJ McCarthy in college, right? At Michigan, when JJ McCarthy and Jim Harbaugh was together, the year they won the national championship, Michigan ran the ball 62% of the time, which was top 3 in the Power Five. This offense was led by Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards. The big reason why I disagree with what Emmanuel Acho said about the offense going through JJ McCarthy, well, if you can't stop my run game, why would I pass the ball? One thing about, and this is just this is like football for dummies talk right here. If I can run the football, I'm going to run the football because when the passing game, there comes risks. There come things that can happen that can't go your way, for example. So in the run game, the worst case scenario is I lose yards or I fumble. Those are the 2 worst case scenarios when you run the football. When you pass the football, interceptions, tip passes that can lead to interceptions, sacks, strip sacks, drop passes that can lead to interceptions. Like there's way more things that can go wrong when you pass the ball than when you run the ball. So if I'm a college team and nobody can stop my run game, why would I pass the ball? Doesn't make sense to me. So that's why this offense went through Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards because nobody could stop them. That's why they won the national championship because nobody could stop this run game. And then also another argument is JJ McCarthy went from a run first offense. I'm gonna hand the ball off 62% of the time to an offense where my best players Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson. Those 3 players are pass catchers. So I'm going from an offense where my best players are in the backfield, who I'm handing the ball to an offense where my best players are in the pass game, where I got to pass the football. That's 2 different styles of offenses. That's 2 different offenses. So you have to expect JJ to struggle a little bit, right? This is also a Vikings offense that was bottom 10 in rushing yards per game. So JJ McCarthy had no run game to lean on. When teams played the Vikings, they didn't have to stack the box because the Vikings wasn't good at running the football. So JJ McCarthy, without a run game, in a brand new offense where he has to throw the ball to be successful, I'm expecting struggles. Going into this year, I made a bold prediction on the podcast, and I said JJ McCarthy will struggle. The world will turn their back on him, and I'm going to claim him, and he will be a J Best guy. So going into next year, JJ McCarthy is my guy because I believe that we Vikings fans put him in a terrible situation. They expected him to come into the league and take over. I have a national champion as my quarterback, my QB from Michigan. He about to come and run this. No, no. He needed a year to adjust. He has Kevin O'Connell, to me, who is a really good play caller, a really good head coach. He won Coach of the Year a couple years ago. He also has the best receiver in the league, still Justin Jefferson, a really good number two receiver in Jordan Addison, a good tight end, TJ Hawkinson. If they can address the run game, go get a good running back in the draft, and also maybe upgrade the O line a little bit, this team will be just fine. Like this Vikings team to me, and also on the defensive side of the football, you was able to keep Brian Flores. Brian Flores was in head coach conversations, but he stayed, and he's still your DC. So to me, this Vikings team has the advantage when they go into every single game from a coaching point of view because they have to me the best offensive and defensive play calling duo in the league. The only other duo I would take over them is maybe Sean Payton and Vance Joseph, and then Steve Spagnuolo and Andy Reid. Other than that, who's running with them? Who's competing with these two when it comes to offensive and play caller duos? Not many people that I can think of at least. Last year would have been Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh, but Robert Saleh's gone. So to me, you have a top five play calling duo in Minnesota, best receiver in the league with a great number two, a good tight end, an offensive line that could do some improvement, right? If you go get a running back in the draft or free agency and improve the run game, your defense is going to be stout like it has been over the past couple of years. Why can't this team be a dark horse next year? I really like this Vikings team going into next year. Now, the only problem that they really have is Christian Derasaw, who is their starting left tackle. He suffered a torn ACL in 2024, right? And then this past year, when he came back, he was dealing with lingering knee injuries, and he also had a foot injury. The team was out of playoff contention by December, so they went ahead and said, you know what, we're going to go ahead and sit you out for the rest of the year. So they sat him down. Hopefully, he can come back healthy, right? But with the 18th pick, if you're worried about Christian Derasaw, go left tackle with the 18th pick or trade up to get a tackle because you got to go ahead and solidify that spot, especially for JJ McCarthy's development. He has to be protected in order for him to develop. And one thing I did not bring up, which is my fault, JJ McCarthy dealt with injuries this year, so he didn't even play a full season, right? So the JJ McCarthy haters, I think you are wrong, like way wrong, and he will prove y'all wrong this upcoming year. I like where the Vikings are. I like where they will be going into this season. I think they're definitely a dark horse team, and JJ McCarthy about to prove the world wrong. All right, y'all. Next up, we have the team that finished second place in the NFC North, and that is the Green Bay Packers. All right, it was 9-7-1, and let's just keep it a buck. This season went to shambles when Micah Parsons tore his ACL versus the Denver Broncos, and they lost every game after Micah Parsons got hurt, including the game he got hurt in. So this team at one point was 9-3-1, and a lot of people thought they were the best team in the league. A lot of people picked them to go on and win the Super Bowl. I know that our co-host Rail on my show picked the Packers to be the Super Bowl champs this year, and at least make the Super Bowl, I believe. And everything went to shambles when Michael Parsons got hurt. This is a team that going into this season, as I mentioned, Michael Parsons, right? He was a Dallas Cowboy. This Packers team said, look, we are a elite edge rusher away from being in the Super Bowl. This is a team that came off of two straight playoff appearances, right? And they believe that, look, we can make the playoffs. We just got to get over the hump and get to the Super Bowl. That is our goal. And that's what you do. That is the mindset you have whenever you send away 2 first-round picks in Kenny Clark for an edge rusher. You're saying, okay, this is the guy that's going to get us to the promised land. And it looked that way until he tore his ACL. But Michael Parsons was not the only injury that they dealt with this season. Tucker Kraft, who played a big role in that offense, was hurt. Christian Watson was hurt in the beginning of the year. Jaden Reed got hurt for a nice chunk of time. So they dealt with a lot of injuries this year offensively, and then their best player on the team got hurt on the defensive side of the ball. But Tucker Kraft, a guy that I want to point out, he played 8 games this year, and he was still third in receiving yards and fourth in receptions in this offense. He played under half the season and still was top three, top four in every category for the receiving game. So to me, that was a big loss. And one thing about tight ends, real quick, I want to say is I think tight ends are very overlooked. Tight ends are very important, guys. This is a position that a quarterback can get the ball to easily because 9 times out of 10, if a linebacker is guarding the tight end, the linebacker is too slow. If the safety is guarding the tight end, the safety is too small. Like to me, in today's game specifically, you want to have a good tight end because they always draw the mismatches, especially with the way tight ends are built now. You see how fast they are. You see how that like most tight ends look like receivers out there, right? So if you can get a good tight end, you're good to go. And Tucker Kraft was that guy for Jordan Love, and then of course he got hurt. But one thing that I want to point out, Skip Bayless, a guy that is pretty much frowned upon. Nobody really gives Skip Bayless credit for being an analyst or whatever. But one thing that I will always quote him for saying, give him credit for saying is you never want to stumble into the playoffs. You always want to streak into the playoffs. Well, this team lost 4 straight games going into the playoffs. So I just knew they would lose in the wild card round. But they shouldn't have lost in the wild card round because this team was up 21-6 going into the fourth quarter versus the Chicago Bears. They then got outscored 25-6 in the fourth quarter and lost that game 31-27. That to me is unacceptable. And this is a loss that I thought Matt LaFleur would lose his job because of. Because you can look at it both ways. You can say, okay, whatever the defense was doing in the first half, you clearly wasn't doing that in the second half, right? And whatever the offense was doing in the first half, they clearly wasn't doing that in the second half, right? So you can look at it both ways. But to me, the offense was the primary reason why they lost this game. 4 straight drives in the second half. They had 5 or less plays and they had to punt the ball. So you're continuously putting your defense on the field. They're tired. The Bears have momentum. That led to the comeback. This is every drive the Packers had in the second half. 3 plays, punt. 3 plays, punt. 5 plays, punt. 3 plays, punt. They scored a touchdown, missed the extra point. Then they had 8 plays, missed the field goal. Then they was down 31-27 with 136 left. They couldn't get anything going. They lost the game. So to me, it was an offensive meltdown that really led to the loss, in my honest opinion, for this game. So I thought Matt LaFleur was gone, but he's still the head coach for the Green Bay Packers. And the only players that they're going to lose a couple players this offseason, of course, Quay Walker, who's a pretty good linebacker, is probably going to depart from this team. But on the flip side, you also have Edgerrin Cooper, who had a breakout year this year. So you're okay with losing Quay Walker, right? Edgerrin Cooper, his first year, so it's the second. This was the second year playing football in the NFL. His first year, he had 87 tackles in 14 games. Well, this past year, he had 118 tackles in 16 games. So you clearly saw the breakout in the improvement of Edgerrin Cooper, who a lot of Packers fans love, especially Packers fans that I know, they love Edgerrin Cooper. So losing Quay Walker, it hurts, but you still got Edgerrin Cooper, Rashawn Gary, and then Micah Parsons, right? So your linebacker core is just fine. Romeo Dobbs is a player that you're going to lose this offseason, I'm assuming. I wouldn't try to bring him back because I have Christian Watson, who hopefully can stay healthy because we all know he's injury prone. You have Jaden Reed, who got hurt this year. Hopefully he can stay healthy. You have Matthew Golden, who you drafted in the first round this past draft. Hopefully you can get, have that sophomore leap because for the majority of the first part of the year, he wasn't, doing much. And then kind of towards the end, he started catching on and getting that connection with Jordan Love. Hopefully he can be a good number 3 next year beside Jaden Reed and Christian Watson. And then Rasheed Walker, the left tackle, you're going to lose him. Right, I believe. So you're bottom 9 in cap space, so don't expect no big moves from the Packers. But the problem is you don't have a first round pick. So it's going to be kind of hard to replace that left tackle. You might get a average left tackle, but you really can't fix that departure because you don't have the first round pick and you're bottom 9 in cap space. So they can probably make something shake. You know how the NFL is. Just because you bottom 9 in cap space don't mean you can't make a move. We all seen this before. But that's a position that I think they have to get a left tackle because that's another important position in football. Before I move on to the Bears, one thing I want to talk about with this Packers team is Micah Parsons. Michael Parsons tearing his ACL was very unfortunate, and it was very unfair for a team that pushed all their chips into the middle of the table and said, Michael Parsons is the answer to our prayers. He is the answer that will get us to the Super Bowl because we've been to the playoffs. That's nothing new. We try to get to the Super Bowl, and that's why they made this move. Um, I was one of the ones that came out, and if you watch the first part of this series where I talked about the Cowboys, I'm kind of having the same conversation. But I was one of the ones that said, I don't know who won this trade. We have to see how it goes over the next 2 years because the Packers gave up 2 first-round picks. So I want to see what it looks like over these next 2 years. Well, the first year, it blew up in their face because of the Micah Parsons injury. The question is, will Micah Parsons be the same post ACL injury? We all know what makes Micah Parsons Micah Parsons. It's his elusiveness, explosiveness, and his speed. All of that is lower body. He tore his ACL. I'm not saying he won't come back the same, but I'm also not going to guarantee he will come back the same. Injuries are different for different people, right? We've seen some players come back from torn ACLs better or the same. We've seen some players not come back better and not come back the same. So if you don't get Micah Parsons back, the same Micah Parsons you traded for, you lost the trade. And you gave up those 2 first-round picks essentially for nothing. Because Micah Parsons, we saw what his defense was when he was playing. Then when he got hurt, it was instant fall off for this defense. Defense was not the same whenever Micah Parsons was hurt. So hopefully, prayerfully, this team can get the Micah Parsons, the elite top 5 edge rusher Micah Parsons back. Because if they don't, then it's going to really suck for this organization moving forward, especially the fact that they gave him that big contract too. Like, it's just, injuries are part of the game. I get it, but it really does suck, especially when you invested so much into Michael Parsons. And then before I move on, one thing that I forgot to mention, Jordan Love also suffered a concussion this year at the end of the season. That also was a big part of their 4-game losing streak. So Tucker Kraft, Jaden Reed, Michael Parsons, and Jordan Love all suffered injuries that had them out for a stretch of games, which kind of led to the fall off of this Green Bay Packers team. So let's see what they do. Their first pick is going to be pick 52, which is in the second round. So they won't be picking until day 2. And I'm interested to see where they go with that pick. But this is a team that they believe they're there. They believe that they're ready to win. But it's just a matter of, will Michael Parsons come back the same? That's yet to be seen. And that to me will determine how we look at this team moving forward. Last but not least, we have the Chicago Bears, who finished number 1 in this division. They were the NFC North champs, and they finished with a record of 11-6. All right. I would be lying to you if I said I was shocked by how this season unfolded for the Chicago Bears. I was one of the ones that came out. You can check the receipts. You can check the videos. I came out and said this team was going to win the division going into this past year. Even after the Michael Parsons trade that the Packers made, I still picked this Bears team to win the division. It's just something about, everyone giving up on Caleb Williams after his very first year. To me, it was stupid. Like, do not give up on a player after 1 year, especially a guy that we all gave so much hype coming into the league. He was in a bad situation, and the Bears had a amazing offseason last year, which led me to believe that this year they could take over the division. They added interior O linemen that immediately fixed the O line issues for this offense. And then they added Ben Johnson, who was the hottest coach on the carousel last year, the hottest candidate. They was able to bring him in. And when you pair a guy like that, an offensive mind like Ben Johnson, I forgot his name for a second. When you compare an offensive mind like Ben Johnson with a raw, talented quarterback like Caleb Williams, you can only expect good things to happen. And we saw that throughout this year. One thing about Caleb Williams that I do want to point out is that Caleb Williams, for one, let me give him the praise first, right? He is, he has that potential to be the best QB in the league. He just does. Especially when you look at raw talent. Like, I think he's in the same class as not Justin Fields, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Justin Herbert, right? He's in the same boat as those guys when it comes to raw talent. Like, everybody just go out there, throw the ball around. Those 4 are going to stick out the most when it comes to just raw talent. He showed this year that he has that clutch gene, a gene that a lot of quarterbacks do not have, a gene that Brady is known for, a gene that Mahomes is known for. Who else in the league today is known for being clutch? I mean, Bo Nix has shown that ability, but I'm putting Caleb Williams over Bo Nix all the time because I just think Caleb Williams is better than him, period, point blank. So I think that Caleb Williams has all the tools to be an MVP, to be an all-pro player, to be a Super Bowl champion. To me, he is baby Mahomes, and he showed it this year. Already, he has 8 fourth quarter comebacks and 7 game winning drives. That goes along with that clutch gene I was talking about. Like, no matter what the score is in the fourth quarter, He showed it in the playoffs. He can make a comeback. He was down 21-6 going into the fourth quarter, scored 25 points in the fourth quarter, like that. He's flipped the switch like that, and they came back and won that game. But that is one thing that I think he has to stop doing. Like you can give him credit for it, you can give him praise for it, but I don't think it's sustainable. You can't go throughout your career just making comeback wins all the time. That's just not realistic. Like you have to, Caleb Williams has to be able to put together a full game. I think that in year three we will see that. I think the longer he's with Ben Johnson, who clearly helped him from year one to year two, year three, I'm expecting to see complete games. I want to see a good first three quarters, not just a good fourth quarter. I want to see a quarterback that can make the easy throws, the simple throws, the basic plays, not just a quarterback that can make the probability zero plays, right? The crazy plays that we saw, like the Rams play where he threw the ball off his back foot, like at the 50-yard line, threw a touchdown, right? I don't. I want to see a complete game because when you play a complete game, the Bears can be playing with the lead versus playing behind, right? That changes everything. So I want to see that improvement from Caleb Williams in year three, and I do believe that he's on the right track. He's getting better. Year one and year two was night and day. I think that year three can be better than year two, and I think that that can put him in MVP conversations, All Pro conversations, etc. This team, the sky's the limit. The Super Bowl window is open now. Like every move you make from here moving forward is big because you have a quarterback. Once you have your quarterback and your head coach, kind of like I talked about the Patriots the other day. Mike Vrabel and Drake May, that's a duo you're gonna have for a long time because you are set in stone in those two positions. Make moves to win now. Same with Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson. Those are your staple guys. You have your coach, you have your QB. Make moves to win now. So I think that's how I feel about Caleb Williams. But they are facing a couple problems. Drew Dalvin, their center that they added last offseason. When I said they upgraded the interior O line, he was one of the key pieces they added. He was a Pro Bowler this past year. He ranked number one in pass block win rate at 74%. He was fifth in run block win rate at 74%. The center had the eighth highest pass block win rate among all interior offensive linemen with 406 wins and 423 passing plays, right? And he started all 17 games. So he was available, he was reliable, he was elite, and he just retired at 27 years old. He said, I'm done. Deuces. I'm out. Right. I don't know what the real reason was, so I'm not going to, make fun of him for it, nothing like that. But I heard somebody said he was uncomfortable playing center. If you're uncomfortable playing center, not only you just retired, like I really don't know what happened. But I'm just reporting what happened, right? He did retire. Once again, he was a part of a huge upgrade on the offensive line. Caleb Williams was sacked 68 times his first year in the league. 68 times, ladies and gentlemen, he was sacked. And then this past year, after they upgraded the offensive line featuring Drew Dalman, he was sacked 24 times. That's a big difference. That is night and day, right? So that to me also helped Caleb Williams with his improvement. So they have a big hole to fill, and that is that center position, right? And in the draft this year, they have pick number 1 second, I have it. Sorry, guys. Actually, I do not have it, but they need to address that position. Sorry, I don't know why I don't have it written down. They do need to address that position in the draft this year, getting a center. Maybe they can grab one in free agency, but they are bottom 7 in cap space, so that's going to be a problem. One thing that I am hearing is that DJ Moore is potentially a trade candidate to free up some cap space for maybe a big move to get Max Crosby. Like the Bears, the Rams, and the Cowboys are all three teams that are like aggressively pursuing Max Crosby. All the talks are leaning towards the Cowboys or the Bears. And a trade for DJ Moore being traded will free up cap space to be able to acquire Max Crosby. To me, that is a game-changing move that they can make. That is a move that instantly puts them in Super Bowl, like I'm picking them to go to the Super Bowl. I think this team will be good next year, but I don't think they're a Super Bowl team. Like, mind you, the Rams just made a move for Trent McDuffie. The Rams was in the NFC Championship this year. They just added an all-pro corner. So I'm not putting the Bears over them right now. I don't think the Bears are over the Eagles right now. I don't think the Bears are even over the Seahawks technically right now, right? And the Bears also have a division that are full of good teams. Once again, Micah Parsons come back the same. The Packers are like right there neck and neck with them. But if they get a Max Crosby, then we're talking, hey, y'all gonna jump a couple teams on that list for sure. Because this year, one of their downfalls were their ability to get to the quarterback. This team had the same amount of sacks as the Bengals and the Cowboys. You do not want to be in the same conversation with the Bengals or the Cowboys defense in any category, right? But they were in sacks, right? It was tied for the seventh least amount of sacks. So they couldn't get to the quarterback. They don't really have a guy that on 3rd and 10, he gonna get there. They don't have that. Montez Sweat gave them 10 sacks this year, but he's not a guy that you can rely on in big moments to make plays. But Max Crosby is. And not only can Max Crosby affect the passing game, but he can also affect the run game. This is a team that was bottom 6 in rushing yards allowed. So I'm all for the Bears going out to get a Max Crosby for sure. Like that is a move that I have no problem with. If you got to trade DJ Moore to get it done, then do it. Right, by any means, go get Max Crosby. But then also you got to address that center position. So if you go in on Max Crosby, you might not be able to fill in that center spot like you want to, but because you have Joe Tooney and Jonah Jackson, two good guards, you maybe can slide in a mid center to just fill in that spot for the year for the time being. But Max Crosby, I'm here for it. Definitely make that move. I love teams that notice where they are. They notice they're in win now mode, and they notice that, hey, why wait? Why wait? Let's go all in right now. Go get Max Crosby. We was just in the second round of playoffs. Next year, the goal is to get further, and Max Crosby helps them get further for sure. To close out this episode, I will be answering questions from my viewers. These came from my viewers on TikTok. Okay. First up, we have Mo. All right. Mo asked me, will Caleb Williams be a MVP finalist? Yes. I think that Caleb Williams, he has that ceiling of being a MVP finalist. He has that ceiling of being first team All Pro. He has that ceiling of being a top 8 quarterback next year. I wouldn't put him in the top 5, but he can definitely be a top 8 quarterback. I don't have him top 10 right now, but he can definitely get into the top 8 conversation. And any of those top 8 quarterbacks to me have MVP qualities. They have MVP, like their ceiling can be MVP. I think that, like I said, Caleb Williams, raw talent wise, is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. We saw it this year. He made throws that only a handful of quarterbacks can make. He makes plays that only a handful of quarterbacks can make. And that, to me, automatically puts him at an advantage over most quarterbacks in the league. I think that, yes, to answer your question, long story short, yes, he can definitely be an MVP finalist. Raw talent wise, I'll repeat what I said a couple last segment. He's in the same boat as Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. He's in that same boat, and all those guys have MVP. Like they can win MVP in a year, right? So I definitely think Caleb Williams can be an MVP finalist. Next up from Connor, last but not least, we have this is about the Bears again. He said, "Would you get rid of Montez Sweat, and give Booker and Dio a chance on the left side?" All right. So just to kind of break this down a little bit for those of y'all that don't know, Montez Sweat is the starting edge rusher on the right side, I believe. No, on the left side, and then you have Dio, who came from the Colts last year. He played on the left side, and then on the right side. Sorry. And then Austin Booker, I believe is his name. He was the backup edge rusher. So basically he's saying, would you get rid of Montez Sweat and then make Dio and Booker the two edge rushers? To me, no. If I get rid of Montez Sweat, it's only because I'm bringing in Max Crosby. Or if I can keep Montez Sweat and Max Crosby, that's even better. To me, this Bears defense, you need playmakers on that D line. And if you can look at it one of two ways, you can experiment, bring Dio, because Dio, his best year was 8 sacks, and that was with the Colts, right? Devontae Sweat gives you a ceiling of 8 sacks, at least. I mean, 10 sacks at least, because he had 10 sacks this year. So Dio is not the player that Montez Sweat is by any means. But if I can get Max Crosby, I don't mind moving on from Montez Sweat, especially to free up some cap space, right? But to me, no, I wouldn't just go Booker and Dio. I wouldn't do it because of where my team is currently. So once again, you can experiment knowing that your offense can put up 30 points a game, essentially, with Caleb Williams getting better in the Ben Johnson offense. You can essentially put up 30 points a game, so you can experiment with your edge rushers. Or you can just say, you know what, forget the experiment. We need players on defense that can make plays and that we know can make plays. And that would be Max Crosby or keeping Montez Sweat, who we know, like I said, can at least get me double-digit sacks, unlike Dio and Austin Booker. So that's how I feel about that. Dio's contract, to me, he's a player that I don't mind letting him walk. I don't mind it. He's not a game changer to me. He's a solid player. Don't get it twisted, but I don't mind letting him walk, especially like I said, this is a team who is bottom let me see, 7 in cap space. So letting guys walk and not extending guys is not a bad move for a team that's bottom 7 in cap space. Especially like I said, when there's rumors, and mind you, this question was asked before the Max Crosby rumor started. So my boy, what's his name? Sorry, my boy Connor probably feels different now, knowing that Max Crosby is on the radar. But to me, no, I will either keep Montez Sweat or get Max Crosby. No, nothing other than those two options, in my honest opinion. All right. But that is it for part 3 of my divisional DNA series, guys. I will be posting part 4. No, next is part 4. All right. And part 4 will be the AFC North. That will be the Steelers, Browns, Bengals, and Ravens. All right. So we'll be in my backyard with my team talking about the AFC North. If you like what you heard today, if you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button and leave a comment, or do me a favor and subscribe, share with your friends and family. I would really appreciate it. But until next time, y'all stay blessed, y'all stay safe. Much love. I'm out.
Yo, they feeling like and sub and leave a comment down below. Yo.